What's up everyone, my name is Mike and welcome back to my channel, and we just got some big VeVe news in terms of knowing when that MTL, the money transfer license, is coming, and we're going to be able to withdraw our gems in fiat currency form. Let's get into this. So if you didn't know, or you're watching this video a little bit ways in the future, VeVe at this point in time has no way of you being able to withdraw your gems in some sort of fiat or cryptocurrency form. For about a year they'd been teasing this, and this is them talking about applying for an MTL, or being able to find an MTL provider. That's a money transfer license provider. And essentially what this does is it allows people to be able to withdraw, and so that withdrawals, this can all be tracked and recorded as financial transactions. And so it's been months, coming up to a year, of them talking about it coming out in Q2 in 2021, and it being rumored and rumored. We finally have an announcement, and it's finally being rolled out, and this is what it's going to look like. For one, you can withdraw 50 gems minimum. But in order to be able to withdraw, you need to have 1,000 gems in your wallet as a minimum, at least in the early stages of this rollout. And I'm sure that's just to reduce the amount of people and of gems that are going to be withdrawn at any given point in time in this. You have a maximum of 50,000 gems being able to be withdrawn in any 7-day period. I'm nowhere near that, so I don't have to worry about that. And you need to account for a 10% transaction fee that goes to VeVe and the MTL provider. You also need to take into consideration bank wire transfer fees that your bank will actually charge you as well. This is usually a set amount and not a percentage, depending on your bank and where you're from. So this raises a lot of questions and a lot of frustration in the community, but ultimately I think it's great news that's coming down the pipeline for VeVe. We're going to get into some things that you should consider when selling and when withdrawing. But ultimately, what I see online is people talking about that 10% charge being so high and being a lot for a transaction fee, especially since when we sell our collectibles, we are hit with about an 8.5% transaction fee. That's 2.5% to VeVe, and typically like a 6% transaction fee that goes to the brand licensor. So already with that, that's quite a bit to be hit with when you sell a collectible. But not to mention, when you go to withdraw, you're going to be hit with another 10% transaction fee to be able to withdraw, plus any bank transfer fees as well. It's a little bit to swallow, it's a little bit to get over, but ultimately we're so early in this platform, we're so early with NFTs in general. We'll see how this evolves, we'll see if anything happens beyond this to maybe make it more efficient, to bring that transaction level down. I don't think, and don't count on it in the near future. I think we're talking many years down the road as more competitors come into the space and maybe start to bring those transaction levels down a little bit. And I'm talking 5-10 years down the road, maybe, if it ever happens. But one thing that's being asked and will be continue to be asked is, how is OMI going to be used in the platform to be able to make these purchases and to be able to transact and withdraw through, as opposed to going straight from fiat currency to gems to fiat currency. And then overall, how are these collectibles going to be taxed? How is cryptocurrency going to be taxed when you use that kind of form of transacting? Really, it's such a young space, and I'm excited to be in on it from this and going through these growing pains and seeing how this platform and other platforms evolve. But these are major questions to ask and to get answers to. And I'm sure we'll see lots of answers coming in the future. But one especial, very important thing that I want to highlight in this video is capital gains tax. With all these transaction fees that you are incurring when you sell a collectible on VeVe and when you withdraw your gems, you also need to remember capital gains taxes from this. When you withdraw, and you need to document how much that collectible cost you and how much you sold it for, to be able to calculate how much you made on that collectible, because then that gets taxed. Capital gains tax is taxed on personal property, things that you sell like collectibles and you make a profit on. This is taxable, and there's so many governing tax laws and rules depending on where you're from and where you're tuning in from. Really, this gets extremely complicated, so definitely meet or talk with a CPA, a certified accountant, to go over this. If you don't have a relationship with a CPA already, perhaps you're in a lower income tax level, and the good thing about that is you may be able to save on capital gains taxes. I'm going to go through some of this with you right now, but again, I want to highlight it's really important that you get this information from an accountant that's certified, especially an accountant that maybe has experience in collectibles or even better, experience in this digital space with collectibles. That might be hard to come by, that might be expensive to come by, but it's something that you need to consider going forward with this. I'm going to highlight some things in Canada where I live to get started here. For one, if the collectible is bought and sold for less than $1,000, it gets bumped up to $1,000 and it's nullified. So if your collectible is less than that, you're not paying any capital gains taxes. However, if it's part of a set, and you sell off a collectible in that set over a period of time under that $1,000 mark to be able to get in under that $1,000 mark, that set is actually all added together. So you may go over that $1,000 mark, which then you have to calculate your capital gains. In Canada, you pay 50% capital gains tax. That's not 50% that you're taxed on that you have to pay to the government. That's 50% of what you make, that capital gain, then is taxed in the personal income level. So let's run through this a little bit. Say you sell $13,000 worth of collectibles and those collectibles cost you $3,000. You made a capital gain of $10,000. So 50% of that capital gain is then taxable. So $5,000 of that is taxable. So then you need to report that $5,000 and it will be taxed at the provincial and federal level. So let's say you're in a tax bracket of 40%. That would be 40% of that $5,000, meaning you're paying $2,000 in taxes on that overall $10,000 capital gain. So you're essentially paying 20% on that total $10,000 gain. Now you can also offset capital gains with capital losses. And this could benefit you if you see a collectible not going to be raising in price in the future. And that's kind of what's called tax loss harvesting. You can do it with stocks too. This is a little bit more tricky and a bit more of a gray area because we're transacting in gems and you don't really realize that gain unless you withdraw. So this is going to be really interesting how this is handled. Also, in some areas, short-term capital gains are taxed at a higher rate than long-term gains. So if you hold a collectible, say more than a year, that's then treated as a long-term gain. Then you're actually taxed at that lower rate than compared to that short-term gain. And again, if your income is under a certain level, you may not have to pay any capital gains. And now that's getting really specific to the US and how they treat capital gains. Canada treats it a little bit differently, and I'm sure wherever you are tuning in from treats it even different. This gets really complicated, super tricky. So like I said, consult with an accountant on this and how this is going to be treated for you, especially before you start to withdraw and start to take action on this MTL being rolled out. This is such a new space. There's going to be so many gray areas. There's going to be so many loopholes in the beginning, but this will start to tighten up as we progress. Be smart. Pay your taxes and learn ways that you can legally lower your tax liability. This will help to offset those capital gain taxes that you'll be paying. To be honest, the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to wait. I have no reason to start selling, to start to accumulate over 1,000 gems in my wallet, to then start to withdraw. I'm essentially just waiting on this, hitting the pause button, and I'm going to wait at least probably to hit that 1-year mark with some of my collectibles or more, and just to see how this gets handled in the longer term. Again, I have collectibles in my vault that I'm going to hold for the long term, way more than a year, so I'm not in any hurry to start to sell and start to realize some of those gains and start to withdraw and pay more taxes. I put money into VeVe that I'm totally willing to see go to zero. I didn't overextend myself with this, and I do advise you to do the same with that. Do not overextend yourself with what you're doing here. Something like this 10% withdrawal fee really does hurt, and it could hurt you long term if you decide to exit out of positions in collectibles on the app, especially that 8.5% that you pay in order to sell a collectible in the VeVe market. Now let's run through an example of a collectible that you sold, and let's just pretend that you didn't pay anything for it. Let's say you sold it in the VeVe market for 100 gems. You have to pay that 8.5% fee to VeVe as well as the licensor. So on $100, you pay 8.5. That brings you down to 91.5. And then you have to, if you're gonna withdraw all of that, pay 10%, which is 9.15 from that 91.5, which brings your total down to 82.35. And then capital gains on top of that, as well as any bank transfer fees as well. So with that initial 100, you made 82.35 before bank fees as well as capital gains tax, which means you lost 17.65% just with VeVe transaction fees in the market, licensor fees in the market, and the withdrawal fee as well. That's pretty steep. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this. I'd love to know your game plan, what you are thinking, and what you think about this being rolled out as it is. Like this video if you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful or useful at any point in time, and subscribe for more VeVe content. Thank you so much for watching.